Ladies and gentlemen, our show is about to begin. Please find your seats.
The Atari video computer system.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
I'd like to let Macintosh speak for itself.
It's Saturday morning, October 26, 1985.
To Gaiety, for the first time ever, the Minnesota Twins are the world champions.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System.
Point that the wall has suddenly become irrelevant.
He named his new product the World Wide Web.
The second button literally makes or breaks the shirt. Look at it.
The plane is gone, so I'm stuck here with you guys.
Happy 2000!
There it is, right there.
Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook.com.
What we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
That's what it looks like.
Steps into it. This is caught! Diggs!
Falcon Heavy is configured for flight.
3, 2,
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host for tonight, Tom Paine.
Hello. Good to see everybody. Welcome to a night to honor Brian Sullivan. Yeah, you didn't hear a lot of that tonight, Pally. A lot of applause. Once again, my name is Tom Paine, if you didn't catch that earlier. I'll be the host for the evening, and I was really excited to be asked to do this. I said, okay, I'll do it if I get to sing and dance. And they said, no, we don't have time for that, singing and dancing. I said, will I be able to say a lot of, can I trash talk them? Well, this is it, Tom. Spoiler alert, everybody. Brian Sullivan gets the last word, so still it's all good. Hey, and it's good to be back into this gym. I haven't been in this gym for ages. Used to call all the basketball games and whatnot. Used to watch Brian from his window up there. See, we got that lit up there so that we can remind him that that's where he used to stand and look down at all of his Maranatha minions and say, here I am. So we're gonna have fun with Brian tonight. The one thing I just adore about Brian and I have so much in common. Really, we have so much in common. One thing we have in common is we both have our degree in art education. I don't know if you knew that about Brian, but we're also practicing artists. I'm a sculptor, and did you know Brian is a phenomenal painter? Have you seen his work? If it weren't for Debbie on Facebook showing his work, we'd never see it. But phenomenal painter. I mean, he's got you got a place up in Door County, Wisconsin. gallery up there that shows his work, sells his work. If you know anything about Door County, that's where all the rich Chicago people go and blow all their money. So he's got it good. But listen, I got an exhibit going on. I got my sculptures up. I got an exhibit going on right now. They're in the janitor's closet on the second floor. In the next building. In the next building, not this one. But honestly, it was easy for me to say yes to being a part of this special night. My family has been blessed by Maranatha and by Brian for a lot of years. I think about it, 20 years. For a while, folks, I don't know if you know this, I was a single dad with 3 girls. We were 4 pains living all together, yet we were all alone. Then one day, I met a lovely lady who was busy with 4 kids of her own. I had a hunch this group must somehow form a family, and that's the way we became the Brady Bunch of Maranatha of Like I said, I wasn't going to sing and dance. I only sang a little bit, but that's all right. I'm sure we all have a story about how Brian impacted our lives in one way or another. The reality is, Brian is a tremendous leader and a visionary. Yeah? You know, when the Lord challenged him to run this school, he not only accepted it, but he ran with it. And we wouldn't be here today without Brian's love, passion for raising up a generation of world changers. Yeah? Yeah. Tonight we have a chance to show our appreciation, have a little fun, and honor our man that has positively impacted countless families that have come in through those doors here at Maranatha. Mr. Sullivan, enjoy your honorable night tonight, pal. You've done well, and Maranatha is very grateful. So let's get started. Tonight, we're going to hear from some pretty important people in Brian's life. Our first guest is perhaps at the top of that list. He is also a man responsible for bringing Brian and MCA under the ministry of Living Word 35 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please help me welcome Pastor Mack Hammond.
Praise the Lord, man. I see this is all scripted. Am I supposed to read that? All it says, Pastor Mack says a few nice things about Brian. I'm finished. I'll see you later. No. Where are you, Brian? There you are. Amen. Well, there's much that I could say. I'll try to say some of it. It is important that we understand what we're doing tonight. And we are honoring someone that the Bible says is appropriate to honor. Give honor to whom honor is due. Now, I often do this, you know, when we have special speakers come and wanting people to understand the nature of their gifting and to esteem it highly. Because for the anointing of God to flow through somebody to you, you need to have an appreciation for the gift of God in them and to esteem it highly. So when we talk about honoring somebody, the first thing that I want you to be mindful of is, what are we supposed to be doing? What is it that we are to honor? And you take a look in the Word, and that gives you an indicator of the things that we are to honor in a person. You know, faithfulness as an example. Faithful man shall abound with blessings. And so we can understand that God puts a premium on faithfulness. You find a faithful man, you honor him for being faithful. You know, there are other things. The hand of the diligent maketh rich. Work ethic is important. If God's going to increase you, that's to be honored. Character in every respect, integrity, truthfulness is to be honored. But the bottom line is, Jesus said you will know the truth or validity of a call of God on somebody's life by the fruit that they produce. So bottom line is, you take a look at the fruitfulness of somebody's life and endeavor, and then you honor them accordingly. One of the things that's important for us to understand is if we can give honor to other people, then God will see to it the time will come when people give us honor. Because a man reaps as he has sown. So if you recognize the good things in someone else and honor those good things, then the day will come when people do that for you. And it's an important thing because it validates self-worth, it encourages, it elevates the important things that God places in each of us. And the ultimate recognition is that when you honor somebody else, it is God actually honoring them through you. So you have an opportunity to experience that supernatural flow. That having been said, it's easy for me to honor Brian. There are not many men that I've met in my life, men or women, that are gifted, that are intelligent, that have the work ethic to go along with it, and are persons of character. And when you can find those four elements in someone, you better hire them, you better latch on to them, because it's not all that common. We're not to honor someone's good looks, their personality, how much they make us laugh. We are to honor them for the reasons I shared momentarily, just a moment ago, and for the fruit that their life produces. Brian has the essential elements that enable success to occur in a person's life. And I've watched him work for a long time now with those kinds of, that kind of fruit in evidence. He's a hard worker. He doesn't ask anybody to do anything he doesn't do with his twice as much diligence. He does it faithfully. He does it with integrity and character. And he's gifted. He's anointed in what he does. I have said before that I don't believe I've ever met somebody that has the combination of educational and administrative expertise that Brian Sullivan has. Now, hey, I'm going to do a little burning later on, so just be patient. Right now, I'm interested in being certain we all understand the significance of why we're here. This is the heart of God that we do this for a very special man. And we need to be doing it for the right reason. You said, the word said, Jesus said, you want to know the legitimacy of a call of God or a gift of God, then look at the fruit. You'll know by the fruit. And the fruit of Maranatha should be evidence enough because, when we first put our children in Maranatha, Brian wasn't even there at that point, and it was an 80-person ACE school, if I remember right, owned by Bloomington Church of God. And he's taken this school, Maranatha Christian Academy, and made it a nationally recognized premier Christian school. I can remember going to a graduation ceremony for, I think it was Osseo High School. They had 1,000 or 1,200 seniors graduating. And I remember one of the things that they were showcasing or talking about in a positive way was their graduating class that accumulated more than $4 million in scholarship money. And I chuckled to myself. That same year, we graduated 50 seniors and had more scholarship money than they did. And this is the quality of the educational experience. But, you know, you put that quality, intellectual development, educational experience in the context of scriptural principle, life principle, God principle, and you have an opportunity to raise children not only intellectually capable, but in an arena where they can really affect the outcome of the society that they live in. And that's what Maranatha is. That's the fruit that has been produced. Now I'll say this about fruit production, especially with corporate endeavors. I don't think there's anybody that can say, I did this. It's more about the people that God brings to a leader that enables success to occur. But this is where real leadership occurs. It's the ability to inspire, to motivate, and to generate vision within each of those people that God brings you. It is the ability of that leader to influence those that come to him, that God brings to him, in such a way that the corporate endeavor, is all that it can be. And Brian is a leader that can do that. That means then that he is able to influence the patterns of thought, the character development, the commitment or faithfulness, all of the things that are needed in a person to see them succeed, and therefore the larger ministry to succeed. And that's what he's been able to do. If you talk to people that know Brian, they don't just love him, they have a great deal of respect for all that he is and that has been demonstrated by his life and ministry. So, for me, when we acquired Maranatha, and I don't remember the exact date, I should have that information before I come do something like this, but it was the mid-'80s, if I recall. I think that Brian, what year was it that you actually came to Maranatha for? And that was Cathedral of Praise that owned it at that point. Maranatha had been founded by Bloomington Church of God. The founder, Alan Walker, went home to be with the Lord. Another church took the ministry of Bloomington Church of God, called Cathedral of Praise, and sustained the school to the best of their ability that had been purchased or acquired through taking that church. And after a year or two, maybe, they weren't able to manage it financially, and I got word of the fact that they were thinking about, closing it. And that's when Living Word acquired the school in the mid-'80s somewhere. And since then, we have invested literally millions of dollars in Maranatha. But you need to understand the investment wasn't in a school or a vision. It was in a man. The investments that I felt led to make wouldn't have been made if Brian hadn't been there and if the Lord hadn't, quickened to me some truths about him and the capabilities that he had, and therefore the future that the school had. I invested in Brian more than I did the school. And of course, the rest is history, because he has met every expectation, and now I've taken him away from the school. That was a hard sell, because that's where his heart is. But I convinced him that his talents and capabilities would be useful on a larger scale at Living Word as chief of staff, which is what he is now. So instead of managing 100 employees, he's managing 300. instead of a $6.5 or $7 million a year budget, it's now a $29 million a year budget. And he's already put things in place that I believe are going to stand us in good stead for a lot of years to come. So I celebrate. So I celebrate Brian. I love him and have a great deal of respect for him. Now it's burn time. Not really. I mean, I've got a few stories. I don't know how much time they've allocated me, probably not much, but the first time I met Brian, my kids had been going to Maranatha for a few years, and I knew that we had this new guy. And so after I actually acquired the school, the Living Word did, I was going to meet with my new educational wizard, named Brian Sullivan. And so we agreed to meet at this little cafe, not too far from, that was down there in East Edina, wasn't it? When the school was there. And anyway, so I had just preached the Sunday prior a barn-burning sermon called The Hog Pen Trail. And it was about the evils of alcohol. Now, if you drink, don't get too upset, I've always been an extremist, and back then I was really radical. But, I mean, if you drink a little bit, you may still go to heaven. I'm not too sure about that. But back then, it was a serious issue. And I walk into this little cafe, and there's one empty beer glass and another one full sitting in front of my new educator. So, after we finished our meeting, I sent him a tape of the Hog Pen Trail. And just so he would know a little bit of the ins and outs of who he's dealing with here. But then, actually before that day came, before we acquired the school, Brian came and he was the head guy. And I had all my kids in the school. My oldest son, Jim, he chewed tobacco back then. I don't know where in the world he got that habit. Or got that kind of influence, but he did. And he was caught chewing tobacco on a school bus going to a basketball game. And lo and behold, this new principal, was threatening to expel him. And I had 3 kids in the school and was a big supporter of the school, and I figured I just need to go talk to this man. And so I sat down with Brian and as politely as I could, made an effort to convince him that this was just a childhood mishap that my son had had. This wasn't a serious issue, and he should let it go. And next day, I discovered that he had not just suspended my son; he expelled him. That is the reason I bought Maranatha, so I could fire Brian Sullivan. But truthfully, I loved him because he's not going to be intimidated by whatever political innuendos there might be floating around. He's going to do what he thinks is right and best, even though he's dead wrong. He's still going to do what he thinks is right and best. But, I could stand here and probably talk about all of the different occasions that we've had to laugh together, funny things that have happened. I'm really not going to burn him because it'll come back to me 100-fold. So I want you to truly celebrate a person I consider to be a wonderful man of God, a wonderful educator and administrator, and an even better chief of staff. Thank you, Brian, for all you do and all you mean to me.
Well, it's a good thing that we only have 30 to 45 seconds to talk about Brian Sullivan, because we could spend 30 minutes easily talking to you about all the way that Brian has brought up our three children at Maranatha and how grateful we are with the way and the discipline that he's instilled in them and still instilled in others. Thank you, Brian Sullivan. Laura has something that she would like to say.
Quintessential Brian Sullivan. One picture, one vignette. I'm following Brian. He's gone to the bus and he's walking some kids to his office or somewhere. And on his left, he's goofing off with a senior high kid, just goofing off. And on his right, he's got his hand under the chin of a little kindergartner, and he's pulling the hat off the kindergartner's head while he's looking to the left. That's quintessential Brian Sullivan. K through 12, watch out.
Hey Brian, greetings. I have to admit, when I was asked to do a short video for you, I couldn't think of what I was going to say. There are so many memories and so many prayers we prayed over the school with Jeannie and Shelley, and just wow, look what the Lord has done. You're leaving an amazing legacy. And so to my very dear friend who introduced me to Elmer's That Be Bad sandwich, remember that? Just blessings as you move into the next season that God has for you, and I miss you, and I hope to see you soon.
Hi, Brian. Say, from the Heater family, we want to thank you for your years of service at MCA. It's been wonderful. The greatest thing that has come out of it is our friendship. We're so grateful for that.
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity for a teaching position for myself. I am ever so grateful for that as well, and from our kids too. For your years of love and leadership to them and during their growing up years. So thank you from all of us.
Wow. How great it is to see so many people reaching out and sharing their appreciation. And we're just getting started. We can all agree that tonight would not be possible if it were not for the love and support of a very special lady in Brian's life, Debbie. She has seen it all, folks. She has seen it all. I think it's appropriate that we just thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Wow. Wonderful lady. I'm sure Brian said, "Where's my paintbrushes, Debbie?" All right. It indeed takes a unique person to hang around Brian so very long. And, well, let's do this. Next, let's do this. I would like to introduce to you, not one, not two, but 4 very special people who've been around Brian for 125 years combined. They truly are pillars here at Maranatha and probably have some fun stories to tell you about Brian Sullivan. Would you please help me welcome Mr. Gary Isaacs, Mrs. Sherry Clausen, Miss Jody Swaya, and Mr. Steve Higley to the stage. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, have a seat. All right. I feel like Phil Donahue or something like that on a talk show. All right. Been here 125 years combined. It's amazing. We want this to just be fun, storytelling. Gary, I'm going to start with you. You proceed Brian Sullivan for being here at Maranatha, and you're still here. Why don't you tell us about that?
Oh, I proceed just about half the world, but actually, if I had my way, Brian would never had this job.
And why is that?
Well, I was on the church board, Bloomington Church of God, that started the school, and I was a church clerk. And Alan wanted to start the school. We couldn't afford to start a school. So, they talked about, this and that, and so we voted on it. It was 6-1. I was the one.
You have another great story about something really small with a tail.
Oh, well, the thing about Brian is, and this is no joke, if he has your back, he has your back, sometimes to a fault. Well, actually, Steve and I know it's going to come for a shock to you guys, but sometimes we do things that a little bit edgy. Well, we were in the teacher's lounge, and there was a dead mouse. So I think it's probably Steve's idea. I certainly wouldn't have thought of it myself. So we thought we'd do a joke. So we just took the mouse and put it in one of the ladies' mailboxes, and I put a little placard there that said, "Surprise." So the idea was you would take the placard that said "Surprise," see surprise, look in the box, and you see a mouse. Ah, okay. Not exactly how it came off. The lady, oh, by the way, Sarah Henderson, if you're here, I do apologize now. So, I didn't know that I didn't know anybody could react like this. I was out of the thing, but it was a half an hour before the school. She didn't make the first hour. Brian was consoling, and Sarah kept saying that I did it, and Brian goes, "No, Gary wouldn't do that. Gary wouldn't do that." Right up until the time where he said, "You do that?" I went, "Yep." But he's got my back, and he always had my back, and that was maybe not
Awesome.
the best.
Great stories, Gary. Thanks. Sherry, why don't you have some stories? You started the same time as Brian did.
Yeah, Brian and I came the same year. I think we were under 200 students at that time, if I remember correctly. So it was a pretty small school. But Brian being Brian, he takes care of his staff, and every week he'd come around to the classrooms of the teachers and have one-on-ones, make sure everybody's doing okay. And inevitably, he would come to my room, and before the conversation was over, I was in tears, and I was crying. I don't know why I was crying. I was crying. And it happened not just one time, but multiple times during that year. And fast forward another year or so, and we're sitting in the teacher's lounge and talking to a few of the other staff there, and Lori Bruin, the fourth grade teacher, and somehow it came out that, boy, that first year I was crying whenever poor Brian walked in, and Lori looked at me and said, "Me too." And Alice Sharping was sitting there too, and Alice Sharping went, "No way, me too." And the three of us are sitting there going, okay, well, why did he keep coming to our classrooms? I mean, with these, teachers that are basket cases, why would he do that? Unless maybe we cried because he was the one that was in the classroom with us. We're not quite clear on that, but I know for sure it was because he cared about us. And I was thinking about another time when I had purchased a new car, and I drove into the parking lot with my little two-seater red MR2 sports car and parked it in the parking lot. And lo and behold, not too far, maybe after school, if I remember correctly, there's Brian standing there as I'm leaving school, and it was what's going on? And well, he wanted to take the car for a spin, and I'm sure that it was, again, because he was concerned about the safety of his staff, and he just wanted to check everything out. And the car did come back in one piece. I'm not quite sure how fast it went, but yeah, so thank you for taking good care of us.
Jody, great story, right? Jody, you have some stories about him assigning you to a lot of projects when you were at Maranatha in the early days.
Well, when I first started, I started in 1989. So it was when Living Word had purchased Maranatha. So I came in, and Brian had just started a continuing education committee. So of course I had to sign up to be on that because I had just gone through the state, and they had told me that I had to get so many clock hours turned in and then have my administrator sign the document, and I would get my license. So I got all of it turned in, I got the committee going, helped Brian make that work, and then had Brian sign my document. The state rejected it, sent it back
What?
to me.
What?
Yeah.
Why? Why was it rejected?
They said they couldn't read his handwriting. So my reply was, I didn't teach him handwriting, and their reply was, have him print his name underneath his signature.
Yeah. If he only had you as a teacher growing up, we wouldn't have had that problem.
I was too young.
Yeah. Jody, thank you for that. Mr. Higley. Yep, great story. Mr. Higley, known as the mad scientist here at Maranatha. Tell me, did Brian Sullivan ever try blowing up one of your science labs?
Not the science lab, but his house.
Oh, it's only his house. Only a house.
He asked me to help him change out his gas stove one time. And so we got to work, and he went downstairs to turn off the gas.
Yeah.
Came back up, and so we disconnected the gas and pulled the stove out. And he turned off the wrong valve. And now, as a science teacher, I've seen this before. It happens in the lab. I didn't tell Brian all the times that happened in the lab, but it does every few years. You just turn off the gas. And so he had to go back downstairs and turned off the gas. And there were flames coming out, but it wasn't, it was...
Not like a Bunsen burner or anything?
No, well, kind of like a Bunsen burner, yeah. A little more uncontrolled.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got it out, and then we went to the hardware store to get the parts that we would need to install the new stove. And the guy there gave us kind of a funny look.
Why? Why did he give you a funny look?
Well, it had something to do with some singed eyebrows and a little bit of... Brian had more hair before this incident. This is not the reason, like now, but anyway... there were some singed hairs there.
Yeah, I hear that you probably told more of the realistic story. Brian kind of elaborates a little bit.
As a good pastor, he knows
there
how
was
to...
this huge flame that came out of the house. A fire department from 3 counties came. That's how Brian Sullivan tells his story, right?
He can definitely embellish.
All right, thank you. Okay. I'm sure we could spend a couple more hours telling more stories, which we can tell stories. We have the reception. I'd love to hear more stories about Brian Sullivan. So please give us a round of applause here for our legacy teachers, Mr. Isaac, Mrs. Clausen, Ms. Swaya, and Mr. Higley. Pillars. Well, many of you know Brian's heart for children is massive. That's one of the things that made him a great head of school here at Maranatha. And yes, he's a great leader, but he also has a servant's heart that he shares with the staff and with the students every day. And Brian has been a blessing to kids as far away as Mexico and even right here in our community. So let's take a look.
The Mexico mission trips were a huge blessing to me. It was one of those ways that God showed how he plants seeds in really early. I went on 2 trips when I was in school at Maranatha, and then after Maranatha this past year, I went and chaperoned on the trip, and then he planted in my heart to come serve here. So if I didn't start coming when I was in high school, then I wouldn't be a missionary here now, which I'm so grateful to.
And we're so grateful too. We're talking about the missions team, that's the best. We love the MCA teams. They're just the joy of the whole year. The Casa kids can hardly wait. When is Anissa's team coming? They don't know how to say MCA. But anyway, every single one has been a blessing, and this sounds crazy, but every single one has gotten just a bit better. And they just get better and better, and they're such a huge blessing here. They affect everyone. They help our youth and our church to be energized and really work. And it's just a fun thing to do. We really love it.
Mr. Sullivan, you changed the course of my life. when you allowed me to attend Maranatha Christian Academy as a student with a disability. My options were limited, but God led me to you, and you were willing to think outside the box and allowed me to become a student. I will forever be grateful to you and the staff at Maranatha Christian Academy for this opportunity. You are a man of great character and a big heart who has shared God's love with so many students. You saw my possibilities, not my limitations. God has blessed me and allowed me to graduate with an associate's degree in early childhood education, and I currently work in the Christian pre-K preschool academy. Your impact in my life is immeasurable, and I know that you were God's instrument to bless me and start me on a path to be used by God. May God continue to richly bless you.
That's amazing, isn't it? To think, really? Brian's vision and impact are literally making a difference around the world. You see, you may have figured out that the young lady in the video with Leanne, that's my daughter, Sammy, who's down in Mexico being a servant heart, having that servant heart like Brian. She's been around him since she was 4. And it humbles me to see how this school has influenced my family, but so profoundly. I can tell you from experience that Brian Sullivan is a unique man who holds. Come on, Tom, he's ready to get through this. Maybe some of you know me, some of you don't. Brian has for 20 years. I'm not going to look at you when I'm telling you the story. I came across Brian Sullivan in 2002 when I enrolled my daughter, Michaela, my oldest daughter, in 1st grade. Brian knew that my wife, Danette, was diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 4. August 2000, he knew it, the staff knew it. Things were great. Michaela gets through 1st grade with Miss Kirschbaum. Next year comes up, Michaela's in 2nd grade with Miss Swaya. Sophie, my middle daughter, is in kindergarten with Mrs. Wires. Things were going good until that very cold January 8th day. My daughters didn't go to school that day. They went to visit their mom at the hospital, which was nothing new. They had visited her at the hospital before, but they didn't realize that they were going to the hospital to say goodbye. See, Danette, she never talked about dying. She talked about being healed and being well, and she never told the girls. So she died that day. And it's funny, when someone dies that's so close to you, you remember it so well. January 8th would come, and those memories would go flooding through my memories. I'd remember what happened. I'd remember the funeral. And the funeral was held in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And that man right there came to it. That man came to my wife's funeral in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And I'll never forget what you said to me. You said to me 3 words: I got you. I got you. He said to me, for however long you want your kids to be at Maranatha, I got you. I never knew how powerful that was, what that meant on that day. But as the years went by, they were the best thing ever. On that day, when Brian said, I got you, that was like Jesus telling me that he had me, and he used Brian Sullivan to tell me. I didn't know diddly squat about raising girls. My mother had died a year before. You ever see my kids' hair when they were younger? I didn't know how to braid it. I didn't know how to do their nails. Talk about bras, panties. I'll tell you, the 2 weeks after Danette died, Brian Sullivan provided meals for me and my daughters, so we didn't have to worry about what to eat. Brian had his staff all pray for my family and my daughters, and they prayed with and for my girls. Sammy was 4 years old, and Brian took her in. They didn't have pre-kindergarten back then, but he took her in, and she was at Maranatha at 4 years old. He got me. On the worst day of my life, Brian Sullivan was there. And on the best day of my life, Brian Sullivan was there, because 8 years later, the Lord brought the perfect woman that I needed to marry into my life. And he did the wedding. My worst day to my best day, Brian Sullivan was there. Thank you. Let's hear from some more people that want to share something super about Brian Sullivan.
Brian, thank you for your leadership, inspiration, and vision over the many, many years.
And many years it has been, Brian. We wouldn't call you old, but definitely experienced. In fact, cleaning out the office upstairs, there was an ancient scroll that was discovered in your distinctive handwriting. It turns out it was an outline that you had prepared for Moses as talking points to keep the tribes in high spirits during the Exodus from Egypt. I don't know why you kept that for all these years, but I'm sure it's come in handy. We love you very much. We thank you for your years of vision, and we hope the very best for you, Deb, and your entire family. Many joyful years to come. We love you.
Brian Sullivan, you have been an amazing leader. Maranatha exists today as a tribute to the vision you had of a world-class Christian academy. You know, I get to work with a lot of great leaders, but you stand out among them for your perseverance, your creativity, your hard work, your ingenuity, but most importantly, for your authentic, godly character. Our family is going to miss you, but congratulations, Brian, and thank you for being an incredible, inspirational leader to all of us.
Hello, my name is Robbie Andrews. I am from Brian's first graduating class at Maranatha in 1986. There's a lot of great memories with Brian back in the old days, back when he could kind of be your buddy, back when he was like one of the guys at times. There's times that, like, when he pulled out the BB gun, the machine gun BB gun, to shoot at the kids that were TP in his house. And then there was the other time when he was standing on the back of my old little scooter with another guy driving. It was a one-seater, standing, shouting as they go driving down the street. He was comical and fun to have as a principal. Well, one of my most memorable moments was when when we went on our senior skip day. When we were at the beach, we decided, you know what, one's not enough. Let's have a second senior skip day. So we went to Valley Fair. When we got back to school the next day, Brian was out front waiting for us. That was very nice. And he kind of brought us into his office and he had a little chat with us. He chuckled and said, yes, it was funny, but you are aware we got to discipline you. So we all got detentions at the next possible Saturday, which happened to be the day after we graduated high school. And so we all had to come in that Saturday morning after graduating in order to get our diplomas signed. Well, 2 of us forgot to bring our diplomas in. And you know what? After 36 years, I'm still sitting in graduation purgatory for not having my diploma with me. Love you, Brian. God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tim Ford.
Hello, Brian, Debbie, how are you? Hey, Megan, Aaron, how is everybody tonight? So, hey, we got to clear something up before I get on with my part of the show tonight. You know, Brian, we would stand on the stage at graduation every year, and it was the same joke every year. You remember you'd stand up there, and you'd turn back to me. I was over on your left, and you'd say, Mr. Ford, I assume you pulled off those few diplomas and that we didn't sign. And I always thought it was a joke, Brian. I did not realize that we really did that. So we really need to correct this. Is Rob in the house tonight? Rob Andrews, are you here? Okay, Rob, long shot. Any chance you have your diploma with you? Unbelievable, unbelievable. Hey, tell you what. I've got a pen right here. We can, could you, listen, Brian, this guy has been making minimum wage for 35 years. We have got to do something. Here, use my back. You can.
Here, you can use mine. But with the signature, I get promoted to supervisor. Do you really? Yeah. I get a piece of it. You do get a piece of it.
So, congratulations, Rob. You're officially out of graduation purgatory. Usually that happens at Catholic schools, but we decided to put you in it. And hey, thanks for getting the pen back to me, Brian. This is an important pen to me. It was a part of my severance package. You laugh. I got a pen, 3 paper clips, a picture of Brian, and lifetime counseling for having worked with Brian. So let me get back on script. Seriously though, I'm excited to be here tonight, and it is an honor to be here, and I appreciated what Pastor Mack said, that this night is about honoring Brian. We'll do our best to honor and poke fun. But let me invite 2 other former principals up, Jeff Berquist and Sharon Connor, to the stage. Well, we could sit here and talk for hours about the stories of Brian, couldn't we? Yes. So, yeah, I was trying to think of what would I tell that would, they've only given us 4 minutes to do this. So, I'll tell you one thing that really kind of summarized. Brian was interviewing a young lady for an administrative position, and when she was done interviewing with Brian, she asked if she could meet with me. So she came over into my office and sat down, and really, I wasn't interviewing her. She was interviewing me, and she asked this very pointed question: what's the best thing and the worst thing about working at Maranatha? And I sat back and I thought, Brian Sullivan. It's like, well, which one? Best thing, worst thing? Both. Brian Sullivan is the best thing and the worst thing about working at Maranatha. Which is, did you guys get the counseling severance package for the lifetime counseling?
Oh yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so
They didn't have that yet when I was
they didn't have that. Well, you know, we could probably still get you in on it. Yeah, so shortly after Brian came, she went straight from my office to Brian's office, told him exactly what I said, and now I'm in remodeling. So, Brian, it was truly the best thing working with you, and we'll move on to Jeff. So, Jeff, you probably have some pretty strong impressions about the first time of working with Brian. Talk about that.
Well, everybody kind of thinks he's this leadership guru that just can teach you so many wonderful things in John Maxwell books and all that sort of stuff, but I had a different experience with him. I finally got hired late in, it was, 2 weeks to school, 2 weeks before school was supposed to start, and I was supposed to get trained by this wonderful trainer of leaders. Well, what do? I show up and we end up having to go into trucks. We had to redo the whole South Campus. I've spent 2 weeks of just being sweaty and going home, learning nothing about teaching, nothing about anything, more than just showing up and, all right, get in the van, we're going to go and find some desks somewhere, and then we're going to go in the classrooms, we got to paint this, we got to do this, and it's like, really? This is how you develop a leader? But honestly, no, it showed so much to me, but he was willing to do whatever it took to get the school to where it needed to be, and he would never ask us to do anything he wasn't willing to do himself, and I really always appreciated that about him.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Sharon. You started at MCA early in your education career, so I imagine you learned some things from this leadership guru. Really, that's what you called him?
I got a lot of money for that.
So I imagine you learned some things from Brian that you've carried with you through your career in education.
You know, I did. One of the first things I learned is that plants, he has a way with plants. It's not just Debbie. He's got a way with plants. And I remember going in one time saying, this office has no windows. How come you have a plant, a green plant, that's like 6 feet tall? And he walks over to it and he said, I don't know. I don't really take all that good care of it. And he throws his cold coffee in there and then goes and heats it up. And I went, okay. Yeah, he always emptied his cold coffee in there. And Jeff, I can really relate to what you were saying. I think, I remember when we were moving into the South Campus, and we had come from renting buildings, but they were nice buildings. They were actual schools, and they were nice buildings. And I was a brand new assistant principal at that point in time. They called it assistant at that time. And Brian said, I think we have a place. I think we have a place. Let's go look at it. And so Sonny and Brian and I went over and looked at it.
Bad news.
It took a vision, let me tell you. I walked in there, and I just kept thinking, Lord, you can't be calling us to this place. You can't. It's filthy. It's got rodents, dead and alive in it. It's just, and Brian kept saying, but look, and then we can do this here, and we can do this here. And Sunny, she's gone to be with the Lord in bed, but she kept saying, it's okay, Sharon, we can do this, we can do this. Because I just thought, I don't know how we're going to do that. But Brian's vision was bigger than any of ours. And that was a beautiful home for a lot of years, a lot of years.
Amen. Yeah. Hey, so thank you, Sharon. They're showing us that we've got like 10 minutes. I think they're missing the 0 on that. But funniest moment with Brian.
I always thought the funniest moment with Brian was I was just blown away by homecoming week, because I never got into homecoming week like Maranatha gets into homecoming week, and nobody got into homecoming week like Brian got into homecoming week. And it was especially hilarious when, as a principal or an assistant principal, when it was the Tuesday bad hair day, and he would go over school still was in session, so we still had to do things, and we had to meet together and meet with parents and talk about difficult situations, and it was just hilarious that he'd have this, all the things he would dress up at, and he'd try to be serious and try to present this thing that, hey, we got to, if it's a discipline issue, and I would just look and just laugh at him, because it was just, just so funny how hilarious he looked and was trying to be serious with these parents.
Brian, do you happen to remember the year we stopped was the one where we had to kick a student out of the school on bad hair day? It was the most awkward meeting I've ever had. Sorry, your son can no longer be here, and we look awful. Brian has toothpaste down his face, and I mean, what's bad hair day to Brian? It's having hair. Anything funny?
Well, I remember him actually being nonplussed in a meeting one time where he didn't really know where to go with it. And that was in staff meeting that morning. It was an Alice Sharping thing, but she'd gotten us all Groucho Marx glasses. And Brian can go on in prayer. I don't know whether you realize that, but in prayer it was going on and on and on. And she said, okay, now before he says amen, when he's winding up, we're all going to put the glasses on with the big mustaches, you know. And then, you know, we thought it was funny. It really wasn't that big of a deal, but we had a few laughs at it. Well, apparently he collected some and put them in his office. So now we're in with a prospective parent and their child at the end of the school year. That little mustache thing had come off, and I'm right there with Sarah Henderson with rodents. I don't do them at all. So I'm sitting there, and we're expounding on the glories of Maranatha and why they should send their child there. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this little black hairy thing floating in the vents, and it was just kind of floating up. And without even thinking, I jumped up and I said, no, not that, anything but that. And I go running out of the office. And Brian came to me afterwards and said, I didn't know how to save that meeting. I had no idea what to do after that.
Nice. Hey, Brian, we had our share of fun at some graduations. We remember the girls who brought the mice into school, and they released them in school, and so we played our own practical joke on them by moving their lockers. Health services shut down their lockers due to rodent infestation. We, at graduation, we brought in Chuck E. Cheese. Actually, the mouse ran through the auditorium, and Brian and I arranged that. That was pretty fun. All right, well, hey, before we leave, there is one other former principal who lives out of state and could not be with us tonight, so let's hear from Dale Surrey.
Hey, Brian, this is Dale. Hey, I got an invitation to put a video together for you, and in the instructions it said, I have 30 seconds to say something about Brian Sullivan. And I'm thinking, like, what can I say about Brian Sullivan in 30 seconds? Well, anyway, worked with you back in the 90s. You and Steve Conkey and I had a great time together, and I'm very happy for you. You're finally retiring from Maranatha, and I'm sure that that's a hard thing and bittersweet, but I wish you the very best at your new endeavors at Living Word, and I'll be praying for you. Take it easy. God bless, Brian.
Principal, parents, ACT tutors, PSAT tutors, PLAN tutors. What's with all the initials? Hey, seniors, they don't give you enough credit that you can understand the name of the test. That's a real confidence booster, isn't it? Drama coaches, drama queens, special guest uncles who are not invited but came anyway. Handsome young janitors who are math geniuses. Probation officers. College placement coaches. Staff, teachers who are jubilant because the year is over. Yep, there's the one. And finally, the emotionally exhausted parents. Jealous younger siblings. Grandparents who have no idea who I am. Who is that man? Why is he talking to me? Distinguished guest and undistinguished guest. And you know who you are. People who are just bored and just watching cable tonight. The guy who just wandered through the parking lot looking for directions. Hello, sir. Welcome. Come on in. Have a seat. And this year's graduating class, particularly those who may, and I emphasize may graduate. As you do every year, Miss Richter and Mr. Ford, did you stamp some of those diplomas rejected? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the introduction of the last, not one, not two, not five, but seven Brian Sullivan commencement speeches here at Maranatha. I saw all of them. You didn't think we'd find that envelope, but we found that envelope. I know why you went to that. I know why you went to that little bit, because I got banned from helping. I did a couple of commencements with him and I got banned, but I'm not going there. Seriously though, I can attest that Brian Sullivan and Maranatha literally wrecked any other commencement ceremonies I will ever see in my entire life. People, they are, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have, they're amazing, they're phenomenal, they're the best. I want to thank you personally for making my children feel so honored when they were graduated. Of course, one thing that became a Sullivan tradition was the roasting of the senior class. Yes? Any hands? Can I see a hand? Yeah. And you know what? They all looked forward to it. Well, Mr. Sullivan, it's your night, because you know what you were taught growing up. You reap what you sow, right? Yep. With that, allow me to introduce to you the MCA alum, John Swire, Ryan Watkins, and Vanessa Ville. The stage is yours.
Now it's an honor to roast my favorite senior, Brian Sullivan. Before we get started, though, I have to dress the part. I can't come up here and talk about Brian and not dress the part, so give me a second here to get ready.
I have to say, Brian, I think you lucked out here. You got, I think, 3 of the nicest alum to come back to roast you. So we'll see. We'll be gentle.
Almost ready.
And a fantastic start.
How am I doing?
Very stylish.
Is that about there? Gotta get the collar. All right, you guys ready to begin? All right. You have to admit, Brian's roasts were legendary.
Agreed. But did you know that Brian, the man who's never at a loss for words, actually hired someone to write them?
Wait, brought? Oh, Mr. Sullivan.
No. For tonight, you can call him Brian, absolutely.
Okay.
You graduated, matter of fact, you can call him any name you want.
Okay. So you mean to tell me when I was sitting in graduation and he was roasting me, he wasn't the one who wrote the roast?
Absolutely not.
That's so disappointing. What happened to integrity?
Don't let it get you down, Vanessa. We get the honor of coming up with our own roast of Brian tonight.
You know what? That's true, and I'm ready. But you know, it is going to be hard to say bye to Mr. Sullivan for good. Well, for some people, not me.
Yeah, goodbye. That's tricky. See, the thing is, he might be saying goodbye to MCA, but he's moved his office right next door to me, you know? Moves out 10 years after. I graduated 10 years ago, and he's still missing me. I remember getting to my office, finding out that Pastor Brian wants to move me to a new office. And they're building an office for both of us, he says. It's going to be awesome. So he makes me move right next door. I know you're missing me. I know you wanted me close, so it might be farewell to some of you guys, but sadly, he's right next door for me.
Yeah, 10 years ago, that's cute. I graduated 25 years ago. It took me 16 years to move him out next to me. So thank you for taking him.
That's fair. Hey, at least I don't work with my mom, though.
Okay, so we've all been students under Mr. Sullivan. Brian.
That's right.
Yep.
Do you guys remember at Progressive Dinner when he would talk a lot of big talk to the seniors and he would challenge us in air hockey? Well, he let us win. I don't know about you two. He probably let you win, but I beat him really bad. I wish everyone was here to see that.
Nice.
But he would let us get us out of dress code. And once again, I beat him. These two, I don't know what happened.
No, unfortunately, I never did. So, but yeah, I think he only did that though so that he could wear his super cool 70s clothes to school. I mean, fashionable clothes.
You know, now that I think about it, since he has come over to the church side, I haven't seen him wear a tie once. But I will say this, he has given me several dress code infractions. Yeah, as he calls me Tim and gives me his coffee order. If I have to go down to the coffee shop and get one more triple shot cap, I'm gonna lose it. I promise you I'm gonna lose it.
Well, just wait, Ryan. Wait till you're in a meeting. You realize that Brian hasn't been listening the whole time. All of a sudden, he whips out this yellow legal pad, seemingly from nowhere, starts writing upside down furiously using several Venn diagrams, endless arrows, all while saying he's being totally transparent to you.
You know, I heard Mr. Sullivan Jedi mind tricked Mr. Handrick into moving all the way back from Turkey to here just to run the STEAM Center.
Those are not the droids you're looking for, Mr. Handrick. They're not.
Handrick hasn't been the same ever since. I even saw him talking to that huge bird statue, you know, the one in the Stemo stairwell, the one that Sullivan donated as art. I think I saw him asking advice from it.
Speaking of art, Ryan, has Brian purchased any new statement pieces for the church yet?
No, not yet, not yet. I'm sure they're coming. But the other day, this was pretty funny. We were in a meeting, and he had written down a few pages of notes, or at least what he calls notes. I like to call them hieroglyphics. And I remember it was interesting. He says, "Anita, can you transcribe these for me?" And he doesn't look up and just kind of holds them in the air like this. And it was real awkward. We all just kind of sat around until someone just took the paper for him. He never looked up and noticed that Anita wasn't even there.
Hey, I'm gonna warn you, be careful about taking things from him, right? If you ever hear the words, jumpstart something for me, or status report, vision, run. Don't walk, run.
That's the
He's
trick.
about to ask you to do something crazy, some new initiative that's cutting edge, and somehow nobody's doing it, but everybody's about to start doing it.
And you know, I was thinking about this. I remember the conversations where he'd always say, you know, I'm no Jesus Jr. That was always the buzzword. I'm no Jesus Jr. And I thought about it, and I realized this. Of course you're not Jesus Jr. You're older than Jesus.
You know, it's a Friday night. We've had a long week, so I think us getting to take a shot at Brian has been kind of therapeutic. How about you guys?
I had to get a lot off my chest. That last one might have been too much. So yeah, I agree. And although I will have to report to his office on Monday, probably with another triple shot cap, I'm sure, I can say, Mr. Sullivan, Pastor Brian, you're an amazing leader. Absolutely.
Amen. Amen. And while we won't miss his meetings that just go on for days, right? We will miss your endless passion for educating children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, as Mr. Ford would say.
No. Timothy, you graduated. You can say Timothy.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, as Timothy would say, for being super fantastic.
Now, before we get out of here, there was a lot of people that wanted to be here tonight that weren't able to, and there's even more people that want to roast Brian that aren't able to be here. But we did capture one, so I want to show a video from Nate Brzezinski, all the way from Hawaii, for your enjoyment.
Checkmate. Oh, hey, Mr. Sullivan. It's me, Nate Brzezinski. You know, I was thinking about something the other day. Back at our graduation in 2014, you were roasting our entire class as we were leaving Maranatha. And I heard that you were actually leaving. So first of all, congratulations on your retirement. And second of all, it's our turn to do a little bit of roasting. And if I can recall, I think you said something along the lines of, Nate wants to get out there and see the world, which is why he's going to Iowa State University. Well, Mr. Sullivan, joke's on you. I ended up moving to Hawaii. How's Brooklyn Park treating you?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before the one, the only Brian Sullivan. Hey, Bri, what do you think? Those were some pretty impressive roasts, don't you think?
They were very good.
Yep. In fact, you look a little smoky here. I was wondering maybe I should have brought some s'mores, because you're on fire with all those. Listen, I didn't want to interrupt this ceremony, but I just wanted to say one thing. I got a question for you. What do a missionary from Thailand and a military chaplain have in common? I know. Well, here's the answer. They were all Maranatha students, all finished their junior year, and they weren't invited back for their senior year. Let's find out exactly what they have to say to you about that after all these years. Check it out.
Mr. Sullivan, congratulations on finishing out and all the years you put into Maranatha. I wished I was there to celebrate with you, but I will tell you, I couldn't be more grateful for what you've done in my life by allowing me to set the record for the most senior years of a student at Maranatha. You took the opportunity to allow me to grace your presence for the second senior year, making it the most delightful experience. On a serious note, I couldn't be more grateful for what you did as a principal and how you affected my life. You're one of the key catalysts in everything we do today. We're involved in Thailand. We work with the Ministry of Justice here, working on policy for the juveniles here in Thailand. And behind me is a group of young men that also needed someone to believe in them. And here we are doing this years later, and all your support, even in the later years, of helping us put all this together. We couldn't be more grateful. And we just have one thing to say to you on this momentous event. Are you ready?
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you for all you did. We believe in you, and congratulations.
Well, I first met Brian Sullivan his first year at MCA. I was a freshman, and Brian quickly realized the source of the problems in the freshman English class. And, I had earned being bounced off the locker by him as he asked me kind of what's going on. I didn't come back to Maranatha after that year, but my parents were going to go pastor in western Minnesota for my senior year. But the only way I was going to be able to stay in the Twin Cities is if I moved in with Sonny Fuller, which I did. So there were conditions for me to coming back to MCA as a senior. And as it ended up, I invited myself out of MCA and graduated from public school that year. But the story doesn't end there. A few years later, Brian reached out, wanted to ask me to be a part of a fellowship group, and his willingness to continue to invest in the people in which he saw potential. He believed in us when we didn't believe in ourselves. He ended up conducting our wedding. I became pastor of his at Living Word. I can't say enough about his integrity and character. He's been a friend, a mentor, a brother, and I'm just blessed beyond words for all that Mr. Sullivan has done for me. Thanks so much, Brian.
Brian, there's probably about 1 or 2 or possibly even 10 more of those stories out there. But for the sake of time, we just tried to keep it short. But at the end of the day, we know that your heart was and is for God's will to be walked out in each of the students here at Maranatha. With that being said, I would like to invite a family that has had a few students graduate already and still has a couple still attending Maranatha. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please help me welcome Austin and Melissa Coleman.
I love this. This is amazing. Thank you. It's kind of serious, Brian. We don't have a lot of roasting tonight, if that's okay. Yeah, I'm thinking back. It was 2003 when we started searching for schools for our upcoming kindergartner, Elisha. We toured schools, talked to teachers and parents, and even examined the books they kept in libraries. And after several months of some pretty intense research, I found myself in that parking lot in Old South Campus, standing in line at about 5:30 in the morning, along with other parents who were also trying to get their kids into Maranatha. You know, thankfully, our admission department has improved their intake process. Thank you, Sandy Toma.
We didn't really have a long-term plan at that point, and frankly, I could not imagine us commuting from South Minneapolis for very long, but we just dove in that first year and put our first son, Elisha, into kindergarten and our second son, Isaiah, into pre-K.
You know, trust. I didn't appreciate the depth of the term trust until I had kids.
As parents, it's not an easy thing to trust others with your kids, to teach them for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, in a classroom that we don't have any visibility into. We had to trust that their teachers were not just teaching godly principles, but that they were modeling them. We had to trust the core values of the school. And mostly we had to trust the head of school because we knew that it was from him that everything trickled down, impacting every single family of every single student.
It didn't take long for us to recognize that Brian Sullivan was a God-fearing, Spirit-led man. When you have a leader who you know is being led by the Lord, you can trust how he's going to lead the organization, the culture he'll create, who he's going to hire and retain. And a really quick shout out to all the amazing teachers that have come through Maranatha. Mr. Isaac, Mr. Ayler, Ms. Larson, Mrs. Thill, Doc Meyer, Mrs. Swaya, the list goes on. And so many other high caliber teachers we've had through the years here. We had many lunches and meetings with Brian. Melissa worked with him on some legal stuff. I served on the parent council. Mr. Sullivan, you definitely earned our trust.
Brian is a visionary. It was incredible to observe the kinds of things, the projects that he would take on, sometimes a little cray-cray, but he always mastered the impossible. I remember the summer that he consolidated the 2 campuses with almost all volunteer staff and parent labor, and squeezed about a year's worth of construction into just a few months, all so that when students returned to school in the fall, everything was beautifully finished, and it was just an incredible learning environment. He almost built a dome and explored many other adventures too, but we're glad that only the God ones worked out.
Brian also built out new curriculum like the STEAM Center, which led by Mr. Hendrick is now one of the most cutting-edge programs in the nation. Mm-hmm. Brian is a transformative and growth mindset leader, like a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Mm-hmm. But just being cutting edge isn't enough. Our head of school can be cutting edge, but if our kids aren't ready to compete, what's the use? Brian works to ensure our kids are ready to compete in the world. There's so much more to Brian than just being a cutting edge leader.
That's true. Brian is always learning, but not just head knowledge, also heart knowledge and spirit knowledge. He would charge the atmosphere with concepts like work is worship and kingdom culture, and he would invite students in for like raw talks to get a real pulse on how the school was actually doing. Brian could have done a lot of things with his talents, but he chose to build a Christian school, almost from the ground up. He chose to invest in young people, in the next generation of Christian leaders and pioneers. He also stood at that door as students walked in the school each morning, no matter what the temperature. He even served hot coffee to parents waiting in line for pickup at times. He will always be beloved at Maranatha Christian Academy.
Well, we ended up having 5 kids and sending them all to Maranatha, commuting from South Minneapolis for the first 17 years. No bus. I'm saying there was no bus, bro. We thought we'd end this evening with a few reflections from our kids, if that's okay, who came under Brian's leadership.
Gabriella Grace, aka Gigi, is our 7th grader here at Maranatha. She said, Mr. Sullivan, I just want to thank you for all of the hard work that you have put into this school. I walk around daily and look at how amazing this school is, and I am so grateful that I get to be here.
Josiah is our 10th grader here. He said, Mr. Sullivan has impacted thousands of lives. He's a smart dude. And he sure knows how to run a school.
Spoken as a true 10th grader. Sophie is a freshman at the U of M's joint BA MD program. She's going to be a neurosurgeon. She said, out of every face I saw while I was walking the halls at MCA, Mr. Sullivan's is one I will never, ever forget. How could someone always look so happy? Mr. Sullivan found joy in taking care of and loving on each and every child in his school. He showed us all what Christ-like love truly looks like. And for that, I am truly thankful.
Our son, Isaiah, who's a junior ROTC midshipman at Harvard University, said this. He didn't just know everybody by name, which is a major feat in and of itself. He actually knew everybody. Mr. Sullivan was a role model and a pillar of support before I could comprehend just how much he had already sown into my life. He believed in me and in my dreams when others spoke mediocrity over me. He was genuine in his desire to be involved in people's lives. He showed me on a daily basis what it means to display Christ's love through action. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for showing me what it means to be a blessing.
And Elisha, our oldest, graduating this year from Michigan Tech with a chemical engineering degree, and who just committed to working for Ecolab after college, said, Mr. Sullivan always made people's day just a little bit better with his sense of humor and even with his elementary attempts at roasting. Seriously though, just walking down the hall, you could always expect a warm greeting and a genuine smile. I doubt Mr. Sullivan knows how much those consistent small acts of kindness meant to students. I am forever grateful for all he invested in me through the years.
On behalf of the Coleman 7, Brian, we love you and appreciate you. Thank you for the amazing job you've done. God bless.
Thank you.
Wow, a night to honor Brian Sullivan. What a great experience. I wish I could be there in person, Brian, to let you know just how much I love and appreciate you. You know, you are just such a Renaissance man, from your 3D printed suits to your strategic leadership and your creativity and innovative approaches to just about everything you do. I'm so grateful for the way that God created you. You're this interesting conglomeration of pastor and leader and artist and father and crusty old curmudgeon that God has just put together in this beautiful package. And I want you to know you've had such a significant impact on my life and so many more. So grateful to have you in my life, Brian. I love you very much.
Hey Brian, it's Paul Erickson here. Thank you for your leadership at MCA. We've had great fun over the past 20 years designing new spaces at MCA, bringing your vision of 21st century student-centered learning to reality. We've had a lot of fun and adventure redesigning the South Campus and implementing the unification plan for all pre-K through 12 students at the North Campus. Redesigning the new innovative STEAM Center for project-based learning, reimagining the libraries and the learning commons areas, and bringing new life to the student dining area and hallway, and many other architectural projects like the Fab Lab and the Music Suite. And now we're converting the old theater to 7 new classrooms and a team learning area for MCA's future. Brian, your legacy is amazing, and your vision and leadership for a premier, nationally recognized student-centered learning environment is remarkable. Congratulations, and also enjoy your new journey for the future.
Hey Brian, I want to congratulate you on the awesome career that you had at Maranatha and all the lives that you've changed. And personally, I'd like to thank you for always believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. I really appreciate all the challenges you've challenged me with And I want to thank you so much for that. Have an awesome next season of your life.
This is Jeopardy!
Hey, welcome to Jeopardy! I am your host, Tim Super Fantastic Ford. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk out there about who's going to be that new host of Jeopardy, as well as a lot of questions about what I'm doing, and guess what? I might have just found my calling. All right, well, let's meet the contestants. He's the assistant principal and father of 16, all the way from second floor, Nathan Yancey.
So, hi, Brian. Are we good? Okay. So, I made the mistake tonight. I was watching the video up here, and I saw the year that Brian first started at Maranatha. And I made the mistake of going up to Brian and saying, hey, your first year at Maranatha was the year that I was born. That didn't go over well, so sorry.
And with that, she's a newlywed, teaching at a new school, but never lived in New Hope, Rachel Kaiser. Woo! And he's a Renaissance man living in a reading material world, Mr. Gerald Ayler. All right, folks, here are your categories. Red or orange, 70s rock, Brianisms, hockey fights, modern artists, and Door County. Well, Nathan, you won the coin toss in the back, so we'll start with you.
Okay. I'll take Brianisms for $200.
All right. Overheard during a luncheon asking donors to reach deep into their pockets. Rachel.
What is you can't outgive God?
That's correct. Rachel, go ahead.
I'll take Brianisms for $400.
All right. Preceded by a wink and a nod to imply a private conversation. Jerry?
What is just between us girls?
That's correct. All right.
How about that?
And Jerry, what's your pick?
Oh my gosh. I think I am going to pick Brianisms for $600.
All right. A metaphor to suggest a plan is subject to change. Rachel?
What is folding like a cheap chair?
Nope, I'm sorry. Great answer, but that's not right. Nathan?
What is it's wet cement?
That's right, Nathan. Excellent answer.
I wish you were in wet cement.
All right, Nathan, what would you like?
I'll take Brianisms for $800.
All right. A fruit of the spirit a pessimistic person is blessed with. Rachel?
What is kick the low-hanging fruit?
No, another great answer, but not right. Jerry?
What is the spiritual gift of discouragement?
That is correct.
It's also known as the gift that Mr. Ford has, and it keeps on giving.
And Jerry, you keep that up, I'll give you the left foot of fellowship. And what would your answer? What would you take?
Oh, me.
You, Jerry.
I'll take Brianisms for, let's go for the big one.
$1,000.
$1,000.
Brianisms for $1,000. Sharing copious amounts of information in a short period of time. Nathan.
What is massage it into a workable document?
No, he says that all the time, but I'm sorry, it's not correct. Anyone else?
You listen at his meetings?
They're a little long.
Rachel.
What is we're drinking from the fire hose?
That's right. And now it's time for Final Jeopardy question. And here's our clue. Brian's answer, they're not matching. A pragmatic response to an argumentative person. Get those answers down. Jerry, stage and podium. All right, answers ready? All right, well, Nathan, you answered. What is take a long walk off a short bridge? No, Nathan, I'm sorry, that is not right. Let's check Rachel's answer. Rachel, what is not today, Satan?
That's what I say to Rachel.
It's a good one, but that is also not the correct answer. And Jerry, let's see what your answer is. What is, if you want to debate, pick another topic? Yes, that is the correct answer. Jerry, you have won an autographed album from one of Brian's favorite bands, the 70s group. Yes.
No way. Notice what I did there? No.
No way.
Yes.
Yes. Well, congratulations, Jerry. And to you, Brian. Signing off from Jeopardy.
Thank you so much.
Greetings, Brian. Pete and Joanne Lambert from Jackson, Illinois, celebrating with you from afar. We fondly remember your hiring process as part of the MCA School Board. Your enthusiasm and readiness for a challenge stood out. What became abundantly clear as time moved on is you were God's man to shepherd Maranatha to what it's become today. Your gracious style, drive for excellence, and persistence made all the difference. Thank you for fulfilling your calls so effectively.
Hi, Brian. We just want to thank you for being such a great leader of Maranatha. Everyone knew you always wanted the best for both the students and the staff. And the thing I appreciated about you most was your willingness to always let us come into your office to discuss any questions, problems, or thoughts that we had. I truly enjoyed working with you all those years. And now we wish you the very best in your next adventure.
Mr. Sullivan, what's up, man? Hey, you know you wasn't gonna get through the night without listening to me say something about you. Look, man, all jokes aside, you know, I appreciate everything you've done for me, everything you've done for my family. You know, I don't consider a lot of guys to be my dad. I don't consider a whole lot of men to be that in my life, but I put you there. You've done a lot for me over the course of my life, and I will never, ever forget all of those things. Thank you, man. God bless you. I love you. Peace.
Hey, Brian, I am absolutely honored to be able to share a few words tonight. I just want you to know that we are so grateful for everything that you've done. Thank you for being a pioneer in education, for your vision for the school and our families, and seeing the spark in each and every one of our children. So we honor you tonight. We love you, but we also understand the loss that comes with you stepping away from the school, and that's primarily in the area of snacks. We know that you confiscated plenty of snacks from our students over the years, so I want you to know we've got your back, and we've got care package waiting for you. But again, thank you for everything we've done. We love you.
That Jeopardy segment was kind of cool, wasn't it? Brian, I never pegged you as a yes man. What a crowd, you know? I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape. Let's shift gears once again. Being ahead of school is no easy task, my friend. No, our next presenter has recently stepped into that role herself, having spent the last 25 years under Brian's leadership right here at MCA. So let's welcome Miss Deb Larson.
I'm so excited to be up here, Brian, just to say a few words to you. So I have learned some things from Brian over 25 years. Actually, I was corrected by a couple of staff. It's actually 27 years. So I've been saying it wrong. It's probably the past few years of little trauma. I forgot my age. So I just wanted to say a few things I've learned about Brian's leadership, some things I've learned from him, and I hope, I did bring some Kleenex, I hope not to get emotional, but Brian has meant so much in my life. You know, I came here right out of college and, you know, started working here, and immediately I started watching him and learning his leadership. He has been a friend to me. He has been a comforter to me in the midst of trial that I've walked through. He's been an incredible leader. He's taught me how to be strong, how to be steady, in the midst of walking through pain. He's been a godly man. He's been a boss, a friend. He's a strategic, visionary leader, but he cares about the smallest of details. So he's way out there, but he's also way close. And so that's one of the things I love about him is his beautiful heart. He has such a tender heart, but he's also such a tough man. And to watch someone walk in that and to lead in that, I've learned so much, how to be tough and yet how to be tender with those people. And I think we've heard stories tonight of the toughness of Brian, hard decisions that he's had to make. And some of them were life-changing for some of these students walking through here and staff, but also the most tender of hearts. And he's been there for me in both. And he's taught me how to be both. And he's taught me how to lead that way. He's taught me how to make the right decisions, even if they're some of the most painful decisions, and the fruit that you bear from those pain decisions. I've learned some funny things about Brian, too. I don't know if you've experienced this, but his eye, when his eye twitches, he's always thinking. And I've also noticed, and I'm not the first one to mention this, but he always carries a yellow pad. I'm surprised he doesn't have one tonight. I'm actually surprised he's not jotting. Half listening. Mm-hmm. 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 Anita? I've been in meetings with him before, and sometimes they're long, but sometimes not, where literally something we've discussed in a meeting is emailed, the solution to whatever it is or a question to someone before we even leave the meeting. I've watched him. He's very strategic in how he works. Sometimes he thinks we don't know what he's doing, but we do. And the Jeopardy that we just watched, all the Brianisms, some of you might not know all those things, but we all here at staff, we've all collected these Brianisms for years. We actually have a document that we've created. I was surprised we didn't have more of them. So we love him. We love him. I also noticed, I've been watching you too, because I've been trying to figure out how to do all this here. So I watch you, I still watch you, and I've noticed that when you come to a meeting and you have your lunch with, the speed that you eat your lunch is how stressed you are. So I've actually learned if he's eating fast, and the nuts and the cheese and the pretzels. Oh yeah? So the nuts, the cheese, and the pretzels that you get from the coffee shop, if you're eating those very quickly, I have learned, do not bring up any tough questions. Just wait. So a couple things I've learned about him. I've also learned if you start to tell him something, whatever it is, small thing, and you just kind of put it out there, if his right eyebrow goes up and he leans in, he is going to dig and dig until he has the answer. So watch out when the right eyebrow, when that goes up. I also learned a couple quotes that when I first heard them, I thought, oh, that kind of rubs me wrong. Something about it. I remember I was a teacher, and he'd always say, you are 100% responsible for 100% of what happens in your classroom. And I remember thinking, but what about this? What about that? What about this? But I learned if you really listen to that in your classroom, in your life, in your leadership, in your business, being 100% responsible for 100% what happens, it can take you a lot of places. Even though I wrestled with it, it is the truth. Brian, you're my boss, you're my friend, you're my mentor, you're my pastor, you're a father figure to me, you're a brother to me. And through some of the most tragic things that I've walked through, you've told me, put your head up, put your shoulders up, and keep moving forward. And I did, and I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful for you being there in my most tragic of times as that person and believing in me and keeping on pushing me to walk out my destiny no matter what. I'm so grateful for you. And I know I'm not the only one in this room or people that might watch this later that have had that experience with Brian. Brian, you have a large vision. You're a huge visionary, but you care about the smallest of details. You've taught me how to be bold, strong, gracious, and humble And I was thinking about this morning. I didn't put this down, but I was thinking that you said you'd rather have somebody walk with a limp than with a strut. And in all of your Brianisms, they all had life lessons and meaning to them. And I'll never forget. And I feel like sometimes I walk with a limp. And I believe that that's beautiful, being humble before God rather than being prideful. I learned something too about Brian. I don't even know if I should tell you this because you might use it, but I learned that you should never tell him that he has on a cute outfit. I said that a few times, and I was corrected, that you never say cute outfit to a man. So I learned to say, you look very nice, Brian. But now that I have the microphone, I do have to say, your outfits are really cute. Brian has excellent taste. When I moved into his office, which is up there, he's an artist. He had this picture that he tried to give me. Was a picture of a pig. And he kept trying to pawn this picture of a pig off on me. And of course, I tried to be gracious to him because I know he has different tastes in art. And, we graciously tucked it away. So another thing, I'm not even sure if he knows this, but when I first moved into my offices down here, it was by the back door, so we'd come in, and in the winter, we'd have salt on our shoes, and so we decided to get some rugs in there. Well, he didn't like our rugs. I had bought them at Target. He said they were ugly. So I kind of felt hurt. I spent my own money on them. I thought they were decent, but, he has different tastes than I do. Well, he went off to Door County, and maybe Deb will remember this, but he went off to Door County, and he says, I'm gonna get you guys a nice rug. I'm gonna get you guys something really nice. Well, he comes back from Door County, and he says, I got you guys the coolest thing. It's this 1930 piece of linoleum. And I'm having it shipped here. Well, it got shipped, and we're all like, oh, what is a 1930s piece of linoleum? It was this burnt linoleum. Seriously, it was like a 1930s piece of linoleum. Brian, I'm here to confess that it is the best paint drop cloth ever. We would flip it over and use it as a paint drop cloth, and then flip it back. Also, I learned that sometimes we just need to put on our big boy and big girl pants. That you get what you inspect, which is true. Progress over perfection. We don't want to wake up stupid. Brian has so many more expressions, but those are just a few that I always remember. I learned to love the meetings I attended with Brian. Sometimes they were just draining, and you'd walk, and they were just long sometimes. But Brian could light up the room. Brian's sense of humor, his laughter is infectious. We'd always enjoy just coming and hanging out in your office. Finally, I've learned from this man in watching him lead the school, just his love for people. His love for God. His leadership. I've watched you for many years. I know how you do things. I know how you think. I know when you're moving the chess pieces. And I just want to tell you that I'm very honored to be stepping into this role. And I just want to tell you that I will do my very best to build on the platform that you've created and make this the most beautiful school ever. So thank you so much for the honor. I'm also very honored to invite this wonderful man up to the stage. Please come on up here, Brian.
Sit down. Hey, I want to thank you. Wow, it got late. I didn't realize I had sown so much grief into so many people's lives. But I'm really humbled by tonight. And, I have to admit I was a little apprehensive coming in tonight. I really didn't know what to expect and really, how to approach this. Because if there's been a success in the school, it's really been about us doing it, never me doing it. It's been about the amazing staff and students and parents and our community that really did this great work to God. And I really thank you for your generous outpouring of love and appreciation. And, before I respond to all the half-truths and exaggerations that some of the speakers shared tonight, I want to acknowledge, some super special people in my life. And I got to start with the love of my life, Debbie. And, yeah. I way married up. I would not have married me. She married me. And her wise counsel and her passionate support of me and the mission of our school, and her patience and encouragement and understanding and just so much more. And hey, babe, I just love you. And I way outkicked my coverage. And then I want to thank my girls, Erin and Jess. Jess couldn't be here tonight, but those two came to school with me every day. They went home with me every day. They spent, hundreds of hours a week with their old man as he ran the school, and just so supportive of Maranatha. And Megan, even though Megan's disability would not permit her to attend Maranatha, MCA was always her school. And then Holden and Franklin, my grandsons that, went to Maranatha, and seeing those guys grow up and graduate, be on the platform with them, hand them their diploma, and to see the excellent men that they become. What a privilege, what an honor. I just want to thank really too, Pastors Mack and Lynn Hammond, who, Pastor Mack shared earlier, but, when really nobody wanted Maranatha and nobody wanted Brian Sullivan, Pastors Mack and Lynn Hammond did. And I'll forever be grateful to them. And I want to thank all of the staff and administrators and our support team and our parents. And the privilege of serving you has been such an honor. And I'm especially grateful to our amazing students. The students are the heart and soul of our school, right? They're the heart and soul of our school. And they've always been the core of my focus. And you brought purpose to my life, and you brought purpose to the school. And I want to thank Corey BR especially for organizing this. Corey, I thank you. Thank you. This whole night's been about memories, and I'm going to be quick, right, because we've run over. But, some very distorted, and others accurate, particularly the accolades and the pats on the back. Those are very accurate. But I do get the final word, and I want to set the record straight, and so we'll be out here by 11 tonight. Corey gave me 15 minutes. I don't think I've ever done anything in 15 minutes in my life. So, but when I don't know if you know this, I didn't want to come to Maranatha. So I had already secured a position as head of school in a large prep school in Kansas City, Missouri, and was really kind of set and going to go do that. I had a friend on the board at Maranatha. He said, come out, take a look at Maranatha. They didn't have the keys. We couldn't get in the building. I'm like, these guys are completely incompetent. And they didn't have a budget. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a handbook. And so I drive home, and I'm like, I'm not going to that school. I'm going to Kansas City. And the Lord's like, no, you're going to that school. And I'm like, no, I'm going to Kansas City. And the Lord just kind of wore me down. And so there's 2 furrows in the dirt where my feet were dragged to Maranatha, right? And the first day I'm at Maranatha, I had this incredible vision. And I'm not a super spiritual guy, just to be very vulnerable. I don't have visions, right, all the time. But I had this vision, and it's like the Lord took me, showed me what the school could become, and I saw things that literally are part of our school today. I couldn't even put words to them. And all of a sudden, I knew that God's hand was on this school. There was a special blessing, and his smile and his favor was upon this school. And that vision sustained me, sustained me through my 35 years, or since 1985 when I came to Maranatha. It sustained me all the way up until I knew that I was done. And I feel like that only half of that vision has been realized. But as Pastor Mack said earlier, we were in Sherry and others up here, Sharon Connor, which is thank you for coming out, Sharon, and being a part of this. But we were in the Edina Community Center. We had about, I think, 140 students, 12 staff, and we're renting this space, and it's owned by another church. Well, then the senior pastor leaves, and I'm going to take you through memory lane super quick. The senior pastor leaves, new senior pastor comes, and he just says, hey, God told me we should close the school. And I'm like, are you insane? This school is, God's hand is on this school. God's favor is on this school. I had this vision, and the school is growing. He goes, no, it's not part of the vision of our church. So I said, can we sell the school? Can I sell it? And he's like, okay, the board agrees. And so I shopped the school. I went to the Assemblies of God, and I said, will you buy this school? And we could have bought the Breck campus for $1 million at that time. And we could have had a district school for the Assemblies. They didn't want to do it. Then I tried to build a consortium of churches that would take the school. 10 churches, each church would have a board member and support the school. They didn't do it. And so reluctantly, I called Pastor Mack Hammond. And so you know the rest of that story, right? He's still my boss, so we'll go with his version. But he made the sale contingent on me coming to Living Word for 1 year. He didn't tell you that. And I'm like, I don't want to go to Living Word, and you don't like me. I mean, you don't like me, and I don't want to come to Living Word. And so there's 2 furrows in the dirt where I'm dragged to Living Word, right? Okay, dragged to Maranatha, dragged to Living Word. And now I'm at Living Word. And within a year of being at Living Word, I found a home. I found a church that's passionate about Christian education, a church that's passionate about Brian Sullivan, a church that loved my girls, in a church that accepted us and really got behind us and made that investment, as Pastor Mack articulated earlier. And then, we stayed in the community center for a couple of years. Then we purchased leased the campus in North Minneapolis, a Catholic school that had been abandoned. Sharon represented it pretty accurately. We walked through there, and it should have been condemned probably 4 years before we took it. And so we take that building. I think it was after commencement. It was like June 6th. We get that building. We have 10,000 volunteer hours. Jeff Burkos was right. He didn't really get to prep lesson plans because he was helping me renovate that building, getting it ready to open. And we opened the day after Labor Day in that building in North Minneapolis. And then, that was kind of the summer of 1991. And it was an amazing thing. And we eventually purchased that building. We won a Minneapolis Neighborhood Revitalization Award for that building. And a big shout out to ATS&R, Paul Erickson and Afsana Erickson and Mark Pease, who helped me renovate that building because we general contracted everything, just as we general contracted everything in this building. And it's pretty cool, right? I mean, that we did it, right? Now, some of you have memories of that old building, right? How many have memories of that old building, right? Wandering, the old convent that we called the Annex. We had to come up with a name, for the convent because there was a convent attached. So we called it the Annex, just so that we'd hope nobody would realize it was a convent. Of course, everybody knew it was a convent. And then there's the secret spiral staircase that goes to nowhere. The secret tunnels under the building that none of you went in, but I know all of you were in. Remember the turquoise painted lockers? Those were fantastic, right? And then harassing me all night when I slept on the roof, right? All those nights in December that I slept on the roof, right? And so my wife, who was, I love my wife, but she was our development director at that time, and she figured out, man, if we humiliate Brian, we torture Brian, we're going to make a ton of money. And so I got this idea. We're going to raise money, and you'll sleep on the roof in the middle of winter. I'm like, no. She goes, yeah, and we raised a ton of money. And so, so I slept, I don't know how many, winters, and students came out all night to harass me to make sure I was up there, and then, the school continued to grow, right? And then Living Word got this building, which was just miraculous. And we moved to a 2-campus system. So we had our upper school here and our pre-kindergarten in this building at the North Campus. We had our lower school at our South Campus in North Minneapolis, go figure, right? And then around that time, I had this brilliant idea. Let's open a thrift store and we'll generate revenue for financial aid. And we called it the Maranatha Thrift Store, and it was in Crystal, right? It was in Crystal. Some of you shopped there. Some of you donated stuff there. Got a write-up in Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine, which was really cool. And but think about this. It wasn't a great business plan, and I don't know why, but people give you stuff for free, and we still lost money. So then the Great Recession hits. The Great Recession hits, right? And that affects everybody's businesses, everybody's livelihoods. Nonprofit sector is impacted. Churches, schools. In fact, in Minnesota, 56 non-public schools closed during the Great Recession. They just belly up. And Maranatha is not immune to that. Our enrollment is impacted. It's declining. We're in this 2-campus system that's not sustainable. And so we're in this prayer meeting, and Kathy Dacko's there, and Shelley Hoven and Gene Uzel, and we're just like storming heaven because we need something. And Jerry Ayler walks in to that. Is Jerry still here? Are you still here, Jerry? Jerry walks in, and he sits down next to me, and he goes, the Lord would tell you to be counterintuitive and countercultural. And I'm like, okay, thanks, Jerry. And so the thing just kind of eats at me, and it churns in me, and it grows in me. And so when everybody else is cutting program, right, they're cutting art, they're cutting music, they're cutting technology, they're cutting athletics, just to keep the doors open, what did Maranatha do? We invested in technology, art, music. We invested in ancillary and other programming, right? And we didn't have, at that point, now you'd have thought, if you'd have really been behind the scenes, you'd have thought I'd lost my cookies because we're already in the red and we're spending. We're spending in the red. And yet it was such a rhema word to me at that moment, counterintuitive and countercultural. Everybody's going one way, but God is saying, Maranatha, go this way. And within 2 weeks, the city of Crystal declares eminent domain on our storehouse, declares eminent domain. I hugged the guy. The guy says, in 20 years of declaring eminent domain, I've never been hugged, right? I hugged the guy. We get a huge amount of money, right? And so we take that money, we graduate on June 6th, the following Monday, okay, that was Friday, June 6th, the following Monday, the 8th, that have been the 8th, I believe, let's see, 7, 8, 9th, I'm sorry, the 9th, we start construction, we start demolition, and so we demolished 82,000 square feet, and a lot of parents in this room were there with me every Saturday, every Tuesday, and every Thursday night. ATSNR drew those plans up, right? They're quickly drawing while we're demolishing, right? And in 42 days, we renovated 82,000 square feet in 42 days. In 42 days, right? In 42 days. And we leased the South Campus to a charter school, so that became a profit center, and we moved everything up and we opened the day after Labor Day. I mean, that was just a miracle. It was a miracle. We put $250,000 just in technology. And so, and that project, what was so cool was 17 of the 21 contractors were our parents, subcontractors. They're our parents. We had parents working in our building. We had students work. It was like the old barn raising, right? Back in the days, as if that's a school raising. I wish we'd have been on this old school, right? But, I mean, think about that. I mean, we come out of the recession like a rocket. Now, I want you to visualize this. Other schools, 56 schools are bellying up. Maranatha comes out of that because of that word of the Lord like a rocket. We're growing, we're solvent, we have cash reserves, we have a new mission statement, we have a new brand, and we've never looked back. Right? Isn't that cool? God did that. God did that. God is the superintendent of Maranatha Christian Academy. Deb Larson is the head of school, and we have a very capable and talented head in Deb. But the Lord Jesus Christ is the superintendent and always has been the superintendent of Maranatha Christian Academy. And so God did that for us. God did that for your kids. God did that for our kids. And you fast forward to today, and look what the Lord has done. Look what he's done. Look what he's done. I mean, the school's bursting at the seams. It's recognized as a school of innovation. It's recognized of being a school of continual innovation, right? And I'll finish with this. Back in 2015, we had 255 parents, grandparents, friends of the school, students, faculty, and staff draft our strategic plan called Maranatha 2021. And in that, we made a bold declaration. It was a bold declaration. And really, I believe it was authored by the Holy Spirit. And here's what it said. Maranatha will be a nationally recognized leader in 21st century Christian prep education, preparing students to live their faith and thrive in a changing world. Well, last year in early 2021, we had not one, but 2 external accrediting agencies come and evaluate every facet of the school. Both of those agencies said, we recognize Maranatha Christian Academy as a national flagship school. Yeah. What was written by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit in 2015 was prophetic, because we're standing in it. We're standing in it. We're experiencing it. God had us boldly declare that, and he did it. He did it. He did it through us. He did it with us. He did it through your hard work, your perseverance, your faith, your sacrifice. I mean, that's a big, hairy, audacious goal, right? That is a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's a BHAG. And it's amazing. I mean, I stand in awe of it. When I wrote this, I just started thinking about, look at the journey of Maranatha Christian Academy. And just as God has called me to Maranatha, I could stand in front of you tonight and say, he's released me from Maranatha. And in that release, he's appointed an extremely gifted and anointed leader in Debbie Larson. He has assembled a very capable and gifted and called executive team, an incredible staff, an amazing support team, supportive parents, and most importantly, incredibly talented students. And together, Maranatha will step into its very bright future. Very bright future. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you on behalf of my family for your generosity and your kindness in honoring me tonight. And it's been my honor, and I mean this with all sincerity, it's been my honor to serve you. It has really been my honor and privilege to serve you. And again, thank you for this very generous evening. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Tommy.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the man, the legend, not the myth, but the real deal, Brian Sullivan in the house. Okay, Brian, before we close tonight, I want to just say it's been an honor to host this event, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you've done, for everyone that you have touched here at Maranatha all those years. That's amazing. As I mentioned before, my family is beyond grateful. We had the time of our lives. Time of our lives here at Maranatha.
Now we
look.
had the time of our lives from the first time we met at the door. Yes, we swear It's the truth, and we owe it all to you.
'Cause we had the time of our lives, and we owe it all to you.
Okay, hold on a second.
You've been here for so long, now you finally said it's time to leave.
You heard the voice of the Lord, or maybe it was Pastor Max preaching.
Amen. School was the passion of your life, and you shared the love of Christ daily. Led kids to the promised land, a diploma in the hand to universities. Just remember,
Your heart's the one thing
we can't get enough of.
So I'll tell you something.
You were the best.
Because we've had the time of our lives.
First time we met at the door.
Yes, we swear it's the truth, and we owe it all to you.
Hey, Brian!
You lifted minds and souls. We're grateful more than you'll ever know.
It's so hard to let go. Your jokes will be missed, that's for sure.
Just know that we're crying when we say we'll miss you, Brian.
Yes, we will. Just remember, your heart's the one thing
we can't get enough of.
So I'll tell you something.
You were the best because we had the time of our lives. From the first time we met at the door. Yes, we swear it's the truth, and that we owe it all to you. 'Cause we had the time of our lives. From the first time we met at the door. Yes, we swear it's the truth, and we owe it all to you.
Wow! Wow, look at that. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't that amazing? Let's hear it for our performers, Mike Matheson, Stephanie Craig, Ginger Kirschbaum, and all the singers and dancers. Wow. We want to also thank Pastor Mack Hammond for being here tonight, and thank you for all the presenters that joined us on stage and also by their stories by online. We thank you for that. We want to thank you so much, Living Word production crew, led by Andrew Schrader. We want to thank him. A special thank you to Christy Goulet, Penny Soapsack, Chris Barber, Tia Mayan, Jameson, and Jenna Globe, and Corey Bianchi Rossi. Hey, last but certainly not least, our guest of honor, Brian Sullivan, and his wife, Debbie. Come on back up here, Brian. Come on, man. Woo! Before we leave tonight, be sure to join us for the reception at the Living Word lobby I had a ball. I had the time of my life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tom Payne. Thank you again for joining us. Remember, he's not going anywhere. He's going to the other side of the building. Thank you so much.
Time of our lives. Everybody, come on, stand. First time we met at the door. Yes, we swear it's a truth. It's a truth. Owe it all to you, 'cause we had the time of our lives. The first time we met at the door. Yes, we swear it's a truth. Owe it all to you. Woo! Give for Brian, Brian Sullivan. Nobody puts Brian in the corner.